This document, if you didn't pick up, please pick up at the end, and you want to keep this. This is your most important document. That's the rollout schedule, and as you can see, it has civil eCourts has already begun in Mercer and Middlesex, Morris and Sussex. Taking a little break in June for feedback to the project directors here and to maybe implement some changes and updates, and then they're going to continue on pretty much every 2 weeks, rolling out in a different county. You will see that our vicinage is at the very end. That was calculated on my part. But now let me share with you a better understanding about this rollout. As the counties roll out and go into production, law firms, attorneys, you will still be able to file in hard copy, the old-fashioned way, but only for a period of 60 days. After a county has been in production in eCourts, after 60 days, the current understanding is that eCourts will be mandatory. Now, don't hold me to it. There should be approval process soon, and a notice to the bar is going out. So whatever the notice to the bar says is what you'll follow. But so know that statewide, people are on slightly different schedules. So this is kind of important to monitor. And I want to make another mention, if as the county is rolling out, you, for whatever reason, your firm is going to continue to file them in hard copy, the divisions are required for taking your hard copies and getting them scanned into and uploaded into the electronic environment. So immediately, these matters will be placed in eCourts. So when you're filing, if you're still filing manually in a county that's in production, I just want to give you a little helpful request from all the managers across the state. This will take a long time for the staff to break apart, like with a crowbar. We have to take the exhibits out. They can't be scanned. These things are not easy. So save your offices, save the offices a little bit of money. If you're filing hard copy, we no longer need this because the original has to be broken down in order for us to scan, okay?
So, I'm sorry, so we would not bind it? Is that?
Well, I said the original to the court, it would be helpful because all we're going to do is break it apart, and those things are really hard. We have to take out all the staples, we have to take out all the exhibits, and we have to set it all up for our scanning purposes. So it would just be helpful.
Okay.
How would you like it submitted? You have the rubber band around it? Or?
That's perfectly fine. Rubber bands and staples are still workable. Some of those bound documents are pretty hard to break apart if you've ever had to try to do it. So it would just be a little bit of a help. Our understanding is that courtesy copies will still be mandatory, despite the 60 days. Courtesy copies and motions will be mandatory for the judge to see. And you can bind them and put in the tabs. They like things just as they are. Again, what will be helpful is if those documents could clearly indicate that they're courtesy copies. Because all across the state, we've got people at different schedules. Some attorneys will be electronically filing, some will be taking advantage of the 60 days until they're getting it electronically filed, and we're going to have all these courtesy copies around. So to the extent that you can make that clear for us, the transition through the 60 days will go much smoother. Then my understanding, and again, you're going to look for the notice to the bar, is that that county, once the 60 days is elapsed, that attorneys must file electronically.
What about, they still want paper courtesy copies?
Courtesy copies for motions, I've just told today, would be mandatory. They still want that. Yes, yes. It's just you must send your original submissions electronically. Great. And I had a few other things, but I want to keep going because I know the room is warm, and if there's time at the end, I will share that with you. But let me introduce our panel today. They are both individuals from the Administrative Office of the Courts, specifically the Automated Trial Court Services Unit. We have Project Manager Mark Talbot and Project Manager Beth Ann Strong. This team has been going out to Bar Association meetings all across the state, providing this PowerPoint presentation, which is going to be information for you all from the front end, what it's going to look like, what you're going to need, and what requirements will be needed to set that up. We have worked with this team for over a year now. Our vicinage was a part of the pilot for eCourts in special civil and foreclosure. So we know how, they know our needs, they know our goals. and they help us to get there. It's been a great experience working with Special Civil Court over the year, and I anticipate a great experience in Civil Court as well. So with that, I'll take it over to our presenters. Mark?
Thank you very much. Again, I'm Mark Talbot from the Automated Trial Court Services Unit. I'm here with Beth Ann Strom, and our agenda for today. We're going to start with an eCourts overview, talk a little bit about the history of eCourts, how we got here. Then we're going to talk about the implementation status, where we're going in the future. We're going to actually give you a walkthrough of Civil Part. This is our newest area for eCourts, and we'll actually show you how it works. And then questions. Throughout this, we're going to be going back and forth, showing you different pieces of eCourts, and we'll stop at different points throughout this presentation, open up the floor for questions. Okay, so before I begin, any questions? Okay, so overview. So what is eCourts? I'm going to start with Rule 132 2A, which came out September 1st, 2013. And this rule did three things. First, it confirmed the judiciary's intention and authority to develop an e-filing system. Second, confirmed that the data and documents in that system are just as good, just as valid as paper. And the third thing it did was account for electronic signatures. So we knew everyone's used to standard signatures on a piece of paper and scanning them in, that type of technology. We wanted to go to electronic signatures, so if you submit something, you just need a /S at the bottom, you hit submit, that's your electronic signature. Same with judges approving an order, that's their electronic signature. So that rule change really helped us build that foundation, gave us the authority to build out eCourts. So prior to that, it started with the Supreme Court Special Committee on Information Technology, and in 2009 they submitted a report really saying we need to head in this direction to e-filing. From that, an advisory committee on information technology was formed in 2010 to kind of figure out the direction of policies, procedures, and the technical direction. Where do we want to go with our e-filing solution? So that advisory committee focused on 4 core business principles. The first one is reusability. We don't want to build something for criminal, then something completely different for civil, then something completely different for family. We want to try to simplify the system, keep it consistent, as well as the business processes. Anywhere we can flatten it, keep it the same for you, doing the e-filing, the same for judges, the same for case management. We wanted to do that. The second is leveraging existing technologies. And there's kind of 2 sides of this. One is we're building eCourts on top of existing mainframe applications, legacy applications we'll call them as well. For civil, this was ACMS you may have heard of. It's been around for a very long time. We're not getting rid of that. We're building on top of that at this point. So the data you see in eCourts, the same data we're seeing in ACMS in case management. We also want to look to change rules as needed to accommodate new technologies as we move into mobile. As technologies change, we may need rule changes to accommodate that. The next core business principle was advancing the core business of the courts. We wanted to move away from stamping documents, data entry into the systems, and work more on moving cases along, getting to that decision. So you'll see that that's part of our processes here in eCourts, is to simplify that. The last is transparency. And look at this from a couple angles. One, if something's happening on a case, all the parties should know about it real time. If case management knows about it, something's been scheduled, an order's been generated, everyone should know about it. So we broadcast that information out to the attorneys on the case, as well as make it available to the public. So something to keep in mind, what you do here in eCourts is generally available to the public instantly. Same time you file, the public sees it. They would need to come into the courthouse. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but that transparency is key to eCourts. So our development approach, how do we actually go about building all this? And the reality is it's one piece at a time. So we focus on standardization across all the courts, criminal, civil, as we roll out tax. We wanted to find common components, e-filing, notifications, judgment entry, signing of orders. So again, it's consistent across the courts. And what we build in one area, we then typically move to the other areas. Another key part of our development is including the users. Instead of going away, building something for a couple years and coming back and showing a final product to you, we try to get out as early as possible to judges, case management staff, attorneys, even coming out to bar associations and presenting what we're thinking, what we're looking at doing next. And we're seeking that feedback. We want to know what you think we need next, what's important to you, what doesn't work. And as we get that feedback, we adapt the system, add new features and functions. So again, keep thinking one piece at a time. We're rolling this out. So you're not going to see all the functionality we hope to have in the current version, but it's coming. So all that said, what does eCourts actually provide? At its most basic level, there's three pieces. The first is e-filing. That's attorneys submitting documents, filings to the court. The second is case management processing. That's internally how we then process those. If I have a motion, I'm going to schedule it. I'm going to have our order come out of that. And the third piece is document management. That's our electronic case jacket. So all the documents being filed, all the court-generated documents, notifications, et cetera, all being built out into our electronic case jacket. Okay, any questions on the history of eCourts? No? Okay. So next is availability. When can I file in eCourts? So eCourts is available typically 24/7. So anytime, day or night, you can e-file. A couple caveats there. The first is we are down for system maintenance on occasion. We always try to schedule that off or outside of business hours, so you're not impacted. Other than that, we do have one restriction at this point in time, and this is part of our dependency on our legacy applications. Whereas normal court filing hours might be 8:30 to 4:30, we were able to expand that from 2 a.m. until 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. So anything filed between 2 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday gets that as the file date stamp on the document. Once we get past 8 p.m., our legacy applications go into sort of a backup mode. We can't docket those, so all those filings are going to be queued. That's what we call it. So they'll be held until 2 a.m. on the next business day. So if you file a complaint at 9 o'clock on a Friday night, 2 a.m. Monday morning is when it will get docketed and it'll pick up that date. Now I said all of our filings, there are some exceptions. Complaints and motions will get held. Some other documents will actually go right through 24/7. But again, just think of it, once you get past that 8 p.m., you may not be able to get that as the file date stamp. If there's an emergency, if you've got to file something, a new complaint at 11 o'clock at night, emergent duty judges at your discretion, same as in the past. If there's a true statewide emergency, think about our court closures we had earlier this year due to weather. Think about Superstorm Sandy, where we had a significant amount of time that the courts were closed. All those orders tolling the filing deadlines apply to eCourts as well. So if everything's shut down for a day, that would buy you a day if an order comes out extending those deadlines. Any question on that? Yes?
Do you get a kickback if it just accepts it, doesn't kick it back if there's some out of time issue or anything like that?
Great question. So the question is, if it's out of time, if it shouldn't truly be accepted by the court, will eCourts stop you up front and not allow you to file it? And the answer is, as I think you just said, no. The system just accepts the filing, it'll stamp it, and then you would get a deficiency we'll talk about a little bit later, telling you that it was out of time. But at this point, there is nothing in eCourts to stop you from filing. Yes?
Is there an ability under eCourts to file something under seal?
Great question. So can you file under seal in eCourts? At this time, within civil, there is no way to file a confidential document electronically. Anything that's confidential under seal would have to be filed on paper. In criminal, they do have security at the document level in place. We actually have 3 different levels of security, so we can do it there. We don't have that in civil yet. but we look to work on developing that in the not-too-distant future.
Do you need to get them a special order if they're beyond the 60 days in the county after the rollout?
Typically, what we've done is on the notices to the bar that say this is required, there's usually an exception in there, I believe, that says all confidential documents still be filed on paper until we get security in place. Okay. Any other questions? All right. So I'm going to switch over to a little bit more technical stuff. The first is we are browser-based, internet browser-based. How many people here use Chrome? Safari? Informal and Internet Explorer? Wow, Internet Explorer features. Okay. We support those. Go in, use the application. You can use it from an iPad. You can use it from any device you want that has one of those browsers on it. Should work fine. If you have any technical problems, just call into our help desk. You should be good. We do have a 30-minute timeout, which just like almost any e-commerce site, banking site, after a certain period of time, if you're not doing anything in our system, we automatically log you out. So just bear that in mind if you're in the middle of filing something. In terms of documents to be attached, they need to be in PDF format. So convert it to PDF and upload it. We'll take it in. We do have one exception to that, which is proposed forms of order need to be in Microsoft Word format. And we do that so the court gets a copy that they can edit, and you want to keep that formatting as simple as possible so it's easier for the judge to go in and make modifications. So again, that's Microsoft Word for proposed orders.
And everything else is PDF?
Yes. Everything else is PDF, except for the proposed orders.
You said something about timing out. If you're in the middle of something and you time out, do you go back and pick up where you left off, or you have to start all over?
So the timeout at 30 minutes is if you haven't done any interaction with the system. So if you use Amazon, something like that, typically if you're in the middle of
Right.
buying something, it'll say, oh, you've been away too long. If you're actively uploading documents and things like that, it should not time out on you. But if you walk away and get a cup of coffee for half an hour, then yeah. And Beth Ann's actually going to talk in a little bit about there's some places you can save some documents.
Okay.
We'll see that in a bit. Okay. Right now, for each individual attachment in eCourts, 7 megabyte limit. That means we can't go over that. If you're creating a PDF and it's 8 meg, the system will not allow it. Now, you can break up a large document into multiple pieces, so you can have multiple 7 megabyte documents. A little bit more on kind of a technical overview. First, this is available to all attorneys. I'll actually show you how to log in a few minutes. But you're an attorney, you've got a bar ID, you can get in. It's free access to documents. How many people here use Pacer? All right. Great. So you're familiar with e-filing. You're also familiar, they've got the get one look free, is that it, right? So there is no, first look is free, we charge for the rest, it's just free access. Go in, look at the documents, go in tomorrow, look at the documents again, no issues there.
So when you e-file something, normally like right now, we get an email that has the document number, like number 20, and you click on it and you can see it, okay, like your free book or whatever, okay?
Right.
Are we going to get an email confirming that we filed something?
Yes, the question is, do you get a confirmation email? We'll cover that as well in a few
Okay,
minutes.
sorry.
We're kind enough and send you 2 emails.
Oh,
So yes, you will be getting those as, and
Okay.
cover that in a few. Something else to keep in mind, all of our documents in the case jacket are in PDF format. So even if you submit it on Word format for the court to work with, we automatically convert it to PDF. So everything in the case jacket is PDF, so there's no worries there. Do keep in mind though, with the case jacket, we go live today in a county, all the older documents from a case, from prior cases, from current cases, aren't going to be in the case jacket. So you're just going to kind of see point forward. And all documents are public for now. We talked a little bit about that document level security. We don't have that yet in civil, so everything now is public, so they can get in and see it. Okay. Any questions on that? All right. I'm going to turn this over to Beth Ann Strom to talk about the implementation status. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So going back a little bit to some historical information about eCourts, eCourts began in the criminal division in the summer of 2014, and we started eCourts with motion filing and eventually expanded to other document types in criminal. Most recently, criminal justice reform has caused a few more enhancements in that area. eCourts for the tax court was implemented in early 2015. This began with complaints, and now tax court accepts all documents through eCourts. Last year, we retired the old Jeffis electronic filing system in special civil and foreclosure, and so they were replaced with eCourts throughout the summer and fall of last year on a rolling basis. So all of foreclosure cases and all of special civil cases are now filed in eCourts, and there's mandatory e-filing for those case types. For the civil part, as Mary said, we've already started implementing on a rolling basis. Mercer County went live April 28th. Middlesex County followed early in May. Morris and Sussex went live last week. And so for all 4 of those counties, you can e-file in eCourts right now. Vicinages are added on a rolling basis. Mary was kind enough to provide you with a rollout schedule for that. You can file for cases that have already begun, as Mark mentioned, so you don't have to start a new complaint for an e-filed case. However, if you're going to e-file onto an existing case, as Mark said, the paper documents are probably not going to be available. The vicinages will be doing some backloading of paper case documents as needed, but there's no particular formal schedule for that, so don't expect the paper documents necessarily to be in the eCourts case jacket, at least for a while. Training sessions are being offered all throughout the state, just as we are here today. We've been in most of the counties by now, a few more to go. We also have training sessions available at the central office and a few throughout the state that are a little more detailed than this. It's more of a live demo than this is really static screenshots. So those are available. There is a schedule of those courses available on the judiciary website on the eCourts page. So anyone that wasn't able to come to this presentation today, either attorneys or their staff, they can sign up for those courses. We're also providing training, of course, to the vicinages, the judges, and the court staff as we roll out. And so Mary's staff isn't going to be trained for a little while, but they are going to have a few staff that are going to be knowledgeable of eCourts for civil part even early on. So that was my little snippet, and I'm going to go back to Mark for a minute to talk to you about registration and logging into eCourts, and then I'll be back and walk you through a complaint.
Okay, so external filings overview. I'm going to start with a very simple flow chart showing the process of filing in eCourts. First is you log in. Then you'll make a decision. You either want to file, create a new case, new complaint, or you want to file something on an existing case. Then you'll enter your filing data, attach any documents, review everything, make sure it's what you want to submit, click on submit, at which point you'll get that e-filing confirmation, and everything will be in the case jacket. That's it in a nutshell. Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, you need to sign the document.
When is the docket number assigned? Monday through Friday, 2 a.m. to 8 p.m. As soon as you hit submit, you'll get a docket number.
Actual docket number when you file, it'll be simultaneous.
Well, when you hit submit, you're going to go hit our servers. We'll assign a docket number, and then we'll present it back to you. So logging into eCourts, I mentioned before, use your bar ID, assuming everyone did the online annual registration, it's that bar ID. It's that same
Not the
password.
single sign-in ID.
Should be one and the same if you're an attorney. It would be
Okay.
your bar ID and then password. We call it SSO,
Okay.
so I'm assuming that's it unless there's a
Because
few
the bar
odd ones.
ID, I think, was like their 3 initials and then 4 of their social security, but then there's single sign-in. Is that what we use, the single sign-in?
Last 4 digits should be the year that they passed the bar exam, and the first, I forget, is it 5 digits? 4? Right,
Okay.
that ID number, yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. So you can get to this through our website, which actually was just redesigned. Just go there, you'll see links for eCourts. That's also where we have all the training materials. Yes?
What if someone other than the actual attorney is doing this submission, like paralegal?
So what,
How do they,
let me,
how do they e-signature?
right, so that's a good question. If somebody else is going to hit submit other than the attorney, I guess my best response on that would be the attorney's responsible for everything submitted with that bar ID. At this point in time, there is no delegation of authority from a technical perspective. We don't allow an attorney to set up like sub-accounts to allow other people to file on their behalf. So anything that's submitted under that bar ID is the same as the attorney submitting it. So the attorney's responsible for it.
What about a pro se person?
So pro se filing is not something we currently have. Unfortunately, that would still be coming in on paper, and Vicinid staff would need to upload that into the system, and then notifications, et cetera, would go out. We're looking forward to doing that in the future, but right now we do not have pro se electronic filing. Yes?
Do you have to put your client's street address as part of the filing? It looks like that's what's required.
Great question on getting into the details of adding a party, and I'm going to wait until Beth Ann covers that in a few, if that's all right. So, good that you're reading ahead, though. That's good. That's good. Yes, I'm sorry.
Say plaintiff that filed a complaint and would like to file an answer to that. Do you do that online or no?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if the case started before eCourts came into play in the county, if it was created by someone who did not electronically file, you can still e-file. The case is there, and you can file whatever you need to on it, regardless of its history. So, yes.
Pro se litigant, you have to serve them personally, or will eCourts handle the service for you?
Sure. If it's a pro se litigant and you need to serve them, then you are still responsible for serving them. The court's not going to go and serve them on your behalf, and there's really no way to electronically serve someone who's pro se at this point in time. They don't have accounts yet in the system, so until we can work that out, it would still be paper. So, okay. All right, so again, you log in with your bar ID and password. We do have a thing called step-up authentication we did a while ago. If you did your annual registration, you had to ask or respond to a security question or two. We don't require those for eCourts filing, so just something to bear in mind. If someone else is doing e-filing, they still would not have access to your online registration. Once you go to our website, you click on the eCourts link. First time you go in, you'll have to pass through an agreement where you agree to abide by the terms of electronic filing and agree to receive electronic notifications. 2 key pieces. So this is our actual login page. When we show you pictures of the system, some of these are mock-ups, some of these are from our test system, so if something looks a little off, please bear with us. You would type in your user ID and password here, click on login, or there's instructions for resetting your password, etc. Initial login to eCourts. You have to go through our registration, and this is where you would read our participation agreement. Read through it, scroll down, print it out if you want to, and then you have 2 check boxes at the bottom of this page. The first, again, is you agree to abide by our terms, and the second is to receive electronic notification. Once you've checked off both of those boxes and click on Save and Continue, you're done with this. One and done. You shouldn't have to see this page again.
Per
You don't have to
case
do that
or
per county or?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
that's-
right.
Statewide eCourts.
Statewide.
Yep.
Once you register, you're done.
Yep, if you are currently filing criminal, special civil part, tax, you've already done this, you won't see this again. First time to eCourts, you will see it. Yes?
When you agree to accept electronic service, I assume that's for everything other than the initial complaint. Right, the initial complaint still has to be served on the entity, yes or no?
Right, so when you click on I agree to receive electronic service, on initial complaint, no one's entered in on that case on behalf of the defendant, so that is still paper at this point. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So again, one and done. I'm here. And this screen you'll see every time you log into eCourts. First thing it does, up at the top, see a little help icon, little thing way up at the top, and that's actually a little link. Click on that, it'll give you help with the page. It is context sensitive, so if you're in the middle of an e-filing, click on help, it'll give you help on that page. If you're in case jacket, it'll give you help on the case jacket. Next, it shows you who you are. This is just kind of throwing back your attorney ID, your name. Just make sure you're logged in as the right person. And then, underneath that is our help desk number. If you have any technical problems, issues, etc., please give us a call. We'll work with you, get through that. And then we go through our firm information. And this is going to show what firm we're associated with. And if we have multiple firms we're associated with, you'll see them listed out. You'd select the one that you're filing on behalf of, or for that day. If anything's wrong there, you go into attorney registration, update it. To the right of that are our email addresses. This is key. This is the heart of our notification process. We give you up to 3 email addresses for notification. So the first one's required. Little red asterisk next to there that's used throughout the system, something that you're required to fill out has a red asterisk. You must give us at least one good email address, and every time you come in through this page, you're kind of verifying, yes, that's still a good email address. You have 2 additional email addresses you can add. If you want to have a partner notified, administrative person notified, they would get it as well. Now this is global. I'm sorry, yes?
What if 2 firms are filing a pleading as co-counsel?
So you have 2 different firms on the same pleading.
Correct.
One firm would, on the same pleading.
Yeah,
I'm going to defer to Beth Ann on this one, I'm not sure.
Two plaintiffs firms representing the same plaintiff.
2 firms can represent the same plaintiff, but only one can make a filing at a time, so the other firm would still have to file some kind of appearance to get onto the case. File a document or a notice of appearance in order to get onto the case.
So the
Okay.
initial complaint,
The initial
when you scan it in,
complaint-
it would have 2 firms on the standing complaint, but only one firm on the file.
That's right. The initial complaint for eCourts would only have one firm on the filing initially, yes.
Can you put one of the other firm's email as a notification of the filing?
You can certainly put one of the other firm's email as a notification, however, because Mark didn't finish going through this screen yet, the 3 emails that you have there are global for all of your firm's cases. So I don't recommend that.
That's what I wanted to ask too.
Yeah.
Like, we have 20 attorneys, but we can only put 3 to get notices?
No, a lot of firms will create a generic email address and then they have someone move them around. But you certainly only have a small number of attorneys that need to be notified on an individual
Right,
case.
is this per
Right.
case?
This is
or-
per attorney. This is per attorney. So this is an attorney that's logged in and you're confirming your firm address and the email addresses that this attorney wants their notifications to go to.
So if he, like my boss, his name is on everything, he's the filing attorney. He's gonna get everybody's notifications and then they have to be forwarded to the other attorney?
No, just in that case.
Just that case, it's just that case?
No, everything he files, it's any case he files.
Any case he files. So if you're logged in as him,
Okay.
these are the email addresses that he's going to get. Other attorneys log in as themselves.
But globally, not per case?
No, so these 3 email addresses are per attorney, but they would be for all cases that that attorney is associated to, okay?
This really limits you to having no more than 2 associates get notice on the same file.
It does, yes, it
Okay.
limits you to having no more than 2 other persons on that. Globally, yeah, for all your cases, yes. Yes.
Court, a lot of times, if an attorney starts it and then he hands it off to someone else, and then we want to get the first attorney off, we file a notice to remove from electronic filing. Do we do something then like that for civil court?
So unlike in the federal system, eCourts does not have a notice to remove from electronic filing, but any attorney who files a document onto the case is going to get notifications. So if you have more than one attorney filing onto the case, they will all get notifications.
So in other words, if you had filing a complaint by attorney number 1 in the firm, and then subsequently attorney number 2 filed a motion and put his contact information in the emails, then both attorneys would get notice?
Yes, any attorney that files a document in eCourts has now entered an appearance, as it were, onto that case, and so they'll all get notices.
You said there's no way to remove an attorney, what if an attorney leaves the firm?
If an attorney leaves a firm, you can still file a substitution of attorney, and that attorney will sub out as normally, yes.
Fee, substitute out, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, they can substitute out.
But will the first attorney still get the notices?
No, once an attorney substitutes out, they won't get notices anymore. Okay?
Okay, thank you. So what she said. So happy scenario. You go on vacation for 2 weeks. Again, this is global. And when we say global, criminal filings, special civil part filings, tax filings, all go into these same email addresses for that attorney. So if you go on vacation for 2 weeks, you come in, log in, change your email addresses, route them to somebody else in your office, and they'll get all of your notifications while you're gone. Come on back in, change it again, you'll start getting them again. And to elaborate just a little bit on what Beth Ann said, we've seen some larger firms. Every attorney in that firm has as their email address a generic firm email address. And their IT departments have taken it upon themselves to route all of those. They can actually parse out the email notifications, update their systems. There's a lot of flexibility there. We didn't want to give an unlimited number of email addresses because it's quite a load on the mail servers to be sending out to lots and lots. So we're well over, I think, 10,000 a day emails coming out of our servers. So just give you some idea there. So again, you'll see the screen every time you come in. You have the option to modify it, and then just click on I certify, and you continue on. This is our eCourts home page, and you'll see it says home up at the top. There's 3 tabs up there. Again, we start with the help. Up at the top, you can click on, get some information on it. You'll see your name reflected back, and you'll see our help desk number listed out there. Again, if you have any problems, questions, technical issues, give us a call. Underneath that is where we select our court or division. So this is where we go in and say, I want to file in criminal, I want to file in special civil part, I want to file in tax, I want to file in civil part, which is what we see here. Click on that. And then based on that, you'll see an announcements section at the bottom. This is where we can give you information on what we're doing with the system. If there's going to be a system outage, we'll post it here. System enhancements, we'll post it there. Some other instructions, please do this or don't do that. We can post stuff right there to get you the information very quickly. Then we have 2 options. I've picked my court, or the announcements. I can either e-file from here or look at the case jacket for any case that's out there. We have that also as tabs at the top. You can click on the e-filing and case jacket tabs there. It's redundant, but you'll see throughout the system it can be a little bit easier depending where you are as to which way you select it. All right. So I'm going to turn it back to Beth Ann for walking through a complaint.
Okay, and just to give you a roadmap of where we're going from here on out, I'm going to walk you through the filing of a complaint, and then Mark is going to come back up and he's going to show you the case jacket in detail. So a few of the things that I show you, I'm going to move through a little quickly, but he's going to be covering them right afterward. It just made a little more sense to show you a document filed before we show you a case jacket. Then after Mark goes through the case jacket, I'm going to show you the filing of an answer and the filing of a motion. So for a complaint, you're going to start from the home screen that Mark had just shown you. So once you've logged in, you go to this screen. You can either click on the tab for e-file, or here, as we've indicated, click on the e-file button. This is slide 21. In the next screen, it's going to have 3 different sections. I'm going to go through those 3 sections quickly, and then we'll move ahead. So in the top of that section, if you were filing on an existing case, you would put in the venue and the docket number. Here, we're going to be filing a new case, so we would click on the New Case button. Before we do that, I want to show you the bottom of the screen, which is Pending Filings. Now, we're not showing you any here, but for complaint filings only, because there's so many steps to filing a complaint in eCourts, you can save your work and go back to it later. And you'll see as we go through these screens, there are a couple of screens where you can save. So if this firm that we're looking at had saved any complaint filings, had not submitted them yet, but had just stopped at some point, you would see a list of those below. We've also seen some of the firms in special civil have told us that they may have a paralegal or legal secretary, some staff person, do the work of the complaint and save it in pending, and then the attorney goes in and reviews that and then hits the submit button themselves. And that's one way to ensure the attorney's responsibility ultimately for that filing. Of course, you can do whatever method works for your law firm. So here we're going to click on New Case. And it takes you to a screen that has a lot of stuff on it. Now, I just want to ask, how many people in the room are already working in special civil or foreclosure for eCourts? Some. So you have to get my back here and assure everybody that this actually goes a lot quicker. Okay, so I'm going through it slowly to show you the steps, but it really does go quickly. All right, so on this screen, you'll see a lot of things, and this is slide 25. You'll see a lot of items that look really familiar, and they look like the questions that are asked for the case information statement for the CIS. So some good news about eCourts, it creates the CIS form for you, so you don't have to type in a form or make a form, but you do have to provide us the information so that eCourts can create the form for you. So most of the questions involved in the CIS are on this page. First, you're going to select your venue, and then you're going to click on one of 2 certifications stating as to whether or not this case has any related cases currently in the courts or anticipated. Then we move down to the next section, Enter Case Details. The first thing you're going to do is click on the type of document that you're filing. Here it's a complaint. There are other types of documents that could initiate a case and give it a docket number, and so those are all in the drop-down box. It could be a petition. We have a separate one for a name change complaint, a verified complaint with order to show cause. But here we're filing a straight complaint, so that's what we're going to select. And then you're going to select the case type, in this example, personal injury, and that would be a drop-down box that would give you all of the available case types. And then you put in the case caption. Notice that to the left of all of those fields is a red asterisk. So eCourts, if the field is a required field, you will see a red asterisk. If it's optional, you won't. The next field, which we have outlined in red for you, is called Law Firm Case ID. That's not a mandatory field. This is a place for you to put your file number for a case. It is alphanumeric. You can use a combination of letters and numbers. And this is for the purpose of when you get that notification back with the docket number, you're also going to get the firm ID, the firm's case ID, so that you can match up that docket number with your own file number. I'm not really sure how big that field is, but we haven't had anyone complaining that it's not big enough, so I guess that's good enough. Not mandatory, but it's for your convenience purely, just to help you out a little bit. Then you're going to go on and answer some of those CIS questions, your jury demand, putative class action, Hurricane Sandy related, and so forth. And there's also a text box at the bottom, which again corresponds with the block on the CIS form, which is a free form field, and you can put any other information about the case that you want the court to know. Once you've completed this screen, you're going to hit continue. And now you're going to, I'm sorry.
If there is a related case, where in that form did you put it? In that box at the bottom?
If there is a related case, actually, you'll get another text box, and you can put that information there. So in the next screen, you're going to enter the plaintiff. In our example, we only have one plaintiff, but notice the blue plus sign there. Every time you go to add a party in eCourts, or if you're adding a document when it's time to upload documents, you're going to see that blue plus sign. You can hit that as many times as you need to. There's no limit on the number of parties or on the number of documents that you can have in a filing. So we're going to hit the blue plus sign. It's going to give us a pop-up box, and we are on slide 27. Here's where you're going to put information about your party, and all of this information goes to a CMS, the case management system, and all of this, if it has a red asterisk, is required by ACMS with one exception, and I'll explain that in a moment. So here we're going to put the party type as a plaintiff. The party description, in this case, is individual. And I want to stop and explain this particular field to you a little bit, because there's only two values that you can choose. One is individual and the other is business. This is not a type of a party. We know there's other types of parties rather than just individuals or businesses. This is just a format for the name field. So when you select individual, when you go to put in the party's actual name, it breaks out a first name, a middle initial, and a last name. In the business format, that is one long field. It's just a single field, and you type in the name. The address. The address for your client is not a required field. Any of those address fields are not required. However, you notice in our example that there are red asterisks there. The reason is that anytime you enter something in any one of those address fields, all of them are required. So for example, if on that first address line you put in not applicable because you're not going to put your client's address in there, then you have to fill out the whole thing. So don't put anything. This is of more use for the court staff for. Don't put not applicable, because then you're going to have to fill out all of those address fields with something. So the court staff sees their version of this, the internal version, is almost identical to what you're seeing. So when the court staff is putting in information on, say, a pro se party, and they're uploading that document, they have to put in all of that address information. If a party is represented by counsel, you don't have to put in an address. And there's also a spot for a phone number, and again, that's an optional field as well. Down at the bottom is really the more interesting section, because that name field is very limited. The first name only has 9 characters, and of course middle initial is 1, and last name has 20, for a total of 30 characters. That is an ACMS limitation. However, party names may be longer, or there may be more information about that party that you need to convey. So for example, if this party's name instead of being Andrew was Christopher, Christopher doesn't fit. It comes out as Christoph, it cuts it off. You could go down to the section below and click on an alternate type of full spell, and then in the alternate type field to the right of it, you can put a fuller name. You could spell out the entire name. That's 49 characters, so it's a little bit bigger. If your client is a business owner and you want to put a trading as, doing business as, if it's an estate, there's numerous, and this is only showing a few of them on this screen, there are numerous alternate party types or alias types that you can put in. You have the option to put in 5 names if you need to go that many. If any of you work in foreclosure, sometimes foreclosure plaintiff parties have very, very long names, and they're going to actually use all 5 lines. But for most cases, you don't need that many.
You still have to enter John Doe's 1 through 5 and ABC corporations, or is that like a link you can click?
So the question is for fictitious parties, do you still have to enter John Doe 1 through whatever or ABC company? And yes, you do, and you would put that in as a party name with a business format. All right, any other questions about the party name before we go on? Okay. So once you complete this screen and save it, it'll take you back to that original screen, and then you can add as many parties as you want. We're actually not showing you that here. Once you've added all the parties, you click continue and you move on to enter the defendants. So this will be the same thing. You're going to click on the blue plus sign, and here, this particular party is going to be in the business format. This is not a business. This defendant is the state of New Jersey, but you're going to use that format where it's going to be all one long field. Put in an address if you want to. You don't have to. And then click Save. Once you've entered a party, you will be able to see the party on that screen. And now we're on slide 30. I could probably use your paper. Now we're on slide 30, and as you can see, some information about that party is already available to you. And notice to the left of the party that you can click on Modify if you made a mistake, a typo, and you want to go back in and fix it. Or you can even click on the trash can icon all the way to the left and delete that party altogether and start over again. If you had any additional parties, you would click the blue plus sign and use the same process. There are a few more questions at the bottom of this screen. One is asking, does the defendant have a primary insurance company? If they do and you know it, then you're going to click yes. And again, this comes from the CIS. And there's a drop-down box. You can start to type in the name of an insurance company, or you can select one from the drop-down. And then the other question, do the parties have a current, past, or recurrent relationship? And if you click yes for that, it's going to ask you the type of relationship, again, directly from the CIS form, and that is for the purpose of the court determining what, if any, type of alternative dispute resolution the case is going to need. Once you've entered all your defendants, you're going to click on Continue.
The John Doe's would actually come here, they're not going to come on the plaintiff's page.
The John Doe's would come here on the defendant page, yes. Yeah. You're now at the stage where you're going to upload the complaint document. Now, again, as I said, you can upload as many documents as you want to. There's no limit on the number of documents, so if you need to break it up, if it's a particularly long complaint, if there's any exhibits or other documents that you're attaching to your complaint, you can upload them all as separate documents. Yes?
Is it a requirement, so like if you do have exhibits, do you want the complaint separate from the exhibits? Do you want the exhibits like individually scanned in and uploaded that way?
There's no specific requirement for how to break up documents or if you should break them up. However, I'll tell you that when you start to look at case jackets, that if you can break them up at this upload stage, it's really easier to follow a case jacket.
So you'd rather just have the complaint file and then attach the exhibits separately as just marked exhibits?
It is easier to view a case jacket if documents are broken up, yes. So you're going to click on Browse and just find the document that you want to upload from wherever it is stored on your system, and click on Save. And you'll get a confirmation that says the document has been successfully uploaded, and that's in green at the top of slide 32. Now I want to show you a couple of things on this page, and you'll see this in a lot of sections in eCourts. Notice the blue lines. The first one right underneath that green confirmation says Case Details, and there's a little triangle, a little black triangle. We call that a twisty. So here you can see the case caption, but if you click on that twisty, it's going to expand and it's going to give you the information about the case that you had entered. The same with filer and adversary, and even upload required documents, although we have that open. And the reason that we do that, we compress these sections so that it's easier to see them on the screen. If you don't need to see everything, you don't have to scroll down to get down to the bottom of the screen. You can just click the little twisties and compress those sections. You don't have to look at them. But if you need to look at them, you can open them up.
When you say twisty, you mean the arrow?
I mean the little black triangle, yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we call it a twisty.
Okay.
Other people probably have better names for it.
You call it a triangle, right?
You can call it a triangle. So before you go ahead and submit this complaint, there's one very important thing that you need to do. And in the middle of the screen, you see there's a certification. I certify that I have redacted all confidential personal identifiers pursuant to Rule 1:38-7. So you're going to get this checkbox certification with every filing that you make in eCourts, every single filing, even though you may have done it with the initial filing as required by the rule. You have to do it every time you file. And eCourts will not let you go on unless you check that checkbox. So this is just a reminder. It's actually the first reminder, because you'll see another one in a moment. The first reminder that you have to make sure that you're redacting any confidential personal identifiers. Once you've done that, you can go ahead. By the way, I didn't point out to you earlier, but we've now reached the point of entering a complaint where you can save without going forward. There were a few before that I didn't point out to you, but if you notice on the bottom of this screen, there are 3 buttons on the bottom on the right: a back button, a save button, and a continue button. So any screen where you have that save button, you can save and turn that into a pending complaint. You can go back to it later to finish it. But here we're almost ready to go on. So once you've checked that checkbox, you've uploaded all of, yes?
If you save something, can anybody else access it? See that something is saved and pending?
If you save a document to pending, only someone from your firm can see it. Yeah, it's not visible to the public, and it's not visible to other attorneys, or I should say other law firms. So once you hit continue, you're ready to pay for your complaint. So all of the other information that you've seen displayed is still available, but down at the bottom is a fee section. And so a couple of areas of this fee section that I want to point out to you. One is there's a checkbox to certify if your client is exempt from the filing fee, and we'll show you that in a moment. We'll show you that when we do the answer walkthrough, that there will be a drop-down box with reasons, so you're going to have to state a reason that your client is exempt. Below that checkbox is the filing fee. This filing fee is based on the document type that you selected in the very beginning. eCourts calculates that automatically. To the right is where you select your payment information. And so, as Mark said, the only way that you can pay for a filing in eCourts right now is through a judiciary collateral account or JAX account. If you don't have a JAX account, it is very easy to set one up. You can go on the judiciary website under the section for attorneys, follow the instructions, you do it online. They do take ACH payments and other types of payments, so you can load that account immediately. For those of you who don't have a JAX account, just to let you know that you do need to put $500 in it to start, and you have to maintain a balance of $300 at all times. So you need to make sure that you're maintaining that balance. It is very easy to check your balance online, however, and it's very easy to reload that account. We are looking at other payment methods. There aren't any available right now, but as you can see, we've already built in, because that's a drop-down box. So as soon as other payment methods are available, they're going to be added to that drop-down. Right now, collateral account is the only thing you can check. When you logged in, eCourts knows what collateral account or accounts your firm has, and so if you have more than one, you'll have to select one. If you only have one, it's just going to display that one. You can also add a JAX client reference number. This is not an eCourts field. It has nothing to do with eCourts. It has to do with your monthly statements from the JAX account. So some firms put some information on there to help them to identify the charges on their account. So they may put, for example, a client file number. They may put some code that represents the attorney that's working on that case or a paralegal that's working on the case. It's an alphanumeric field. There's no edits on it. You can basically put whatever you want. And again, the only purpose of that is to help you to identify the charges better on your monthly JAX account. Now, at this point, your CIS has been created, and if you click at the bottom left on View or Print CIS, you'll see a draft of your CIS form. This is a PDF. You can look at it, you can save it, you can print it. You don't have to look at it at all if you don't want to. And if you do, once you've viewed it, you can just close it, and it will go back to that previous screen. You're going to hit Continue on the main screen, and it's going to give you a pop-up box. So this is a final step before submitting your complaint, and this is a reminder of a couple of different things. One is that this document is about to go into a public case jacket. So you need to make sure that it contains what it needs to contain, both in terms of the data and in terms of the document itself. It can only be removed by court order. Now, we're not doing that because we want the $50 for the motion to remove it. So I want to be very clear about why you need a court order to remove a document from eCourts. As soon as this document goes in the case jacket, it was viewable. It was viewable by somebody, somewhere, and someone could have relied on that for some purpose. So in order to remove a document from this public record, you need a record that it was removed. So that's why we're doing that. So this is a reminder to you every time you go to file a document that this document is going to become a public document in a moment, and that it can only be removed by court order. There's also in red a reminder to you that refunds are not available once the document has been filed. If you're okay with this, you click on yes, and you're going to get a confirmation. We're on slide 36. It says in green that this document has been submitted and an email notification has been sent to you. It also gives you a little bit of information about your case. It gives the docket number, it gives the caption, the case type, the track, the judge and the team that was assigned, and at the bottom it also tells you what the names of the documents are that were uploaded. Notice that in addition to the complaint, there's a case information statement uploaded. That's the one that eCourts created for you. The date that it was entered into eCourts, and the total payment. At this point, you could view the case jacket if you want to, and I'll give you a preview of a case jacket in a moment, or at the bottom right of the screen, since you're now done with this filing, you can start a new case. So if you click to view the case jacket, this is what it looks like. Slide 37. I'm not going to go into any detail on this at all. I just wanted you to get a quick preview of it because in just a moment, Mark is going to be going through the sections of it in much more detail. You're also going to get an email notification. This is a little preview of what the email looks like. Again, Mark is going to go into this in some more detail, but just to let you know that this notification is going to tell you, among other things, who was and was not electronically served. Again, for a complaint, no one was electronically served because you're the only one on the case. So complaints still must be served on paper. Yes?
I'm sorry if you said this or I missed you. Does it, if you fail to, if your balance is dipped below the minimum amount of your collateral account, at the time you're trying to file something, will it deny the filing, or will it file it and then you'll get a notification?
Yeah, eCourts will reject a filing if your collateral account is too low.
Okay. So what's your fix? Because sometimes if you have a firm of multiple attorneys and your balances drop below the minimum amount in one day, and you're thinking you're fine at 7 o'clock, what are your alternatives?
So your alternative is you have to go onto the Jack's page on the website and reload.
I'm not familiar, I haven't ever reloaded myself. Is that something that's available at all hours as well to do? Or?
It is. You can add money 24 hours to your Jack's account. Okay. Any other questions about filing a complaint? All right, Mark is going to walk you through the case jacket.
Okay, so case jacket in much more detail, right? Excruciating detail. So to go back to this slide that I showed a little bit earlier, just quick technical overview of the case jacket. Again, it's available to all attorneys. Documents are free to view, no issues there. Everything's available in PDF. Again, anything prior to eCourts probably won't be in there to start. And then all documents are public for now. One of the questions is, how does the public get to these case jackets? At this point in time, every county should have public access terminals, so public can come in and look at the case jackets on those terminals. Additionally, in the Hughes Justice Complex, Superior Court Clerk's Office has a pretty good number of public access terminals. People come in there, look at it as well. All right. So this is what the case jacket looks like. Divided into 3 sections. First up at the top, you always get that header with the help. We also show the docket number that you're currently looking at. The way you get to a case jacket, a few different options there. The first is, as Beth Ann showed, at the end of a filing, you'll have a little link to go in and view that case jacket. Second, on the email confirmations, you'll get a link to the case jacket. And third, you can go into the case jacket. I'm not showing those screens today. You can do a search by docket number. You can do a search by party name on a case, and that'll also get you to a case jacket. So here I am looking at it. My first main section at the top is information about the case. It's kind of global information. I see the caption. I see the court. We're in civil part here. You will note that case jackets, whether you're looking at civil, criminal, elsewhere, all have the same look and feel. You'll see the county. You'll see the case initiation date, when it was created, case type, status, whether there's a jury demand on it, case track, the judge assigned, and the team assigned. Then we have a block of 9 fields. What's the original discovery end date? What's the current discovery end date? And how many extensions have there been? What's the original arbitration date, the current arbitration date, and the number of adjournments? And lastly, the original trial date, current trial date, and the number of adjournments. This is real-time data. This is what the court is seeing internally. This is what our legacy applications would have in them. This is across the board. Everyone's looking at the same information on the case at the same time. Our next section relates to our parties. And we have that broken up by tabs, plaintiffs, defendants. So here I'm looking at the plaintiffs tab. And I'm looking at the top. I see there's 1 plaintiff on this case. If there were more than one plaintiff, more than one defendant, that number at the top would change. Then I'm looking at an individual. I see this is an individual as the party description. I show that party's address information. So if I added their address, if I added their phone number, all that would show up here. If I didn't add it, it would be blank. I also get the attorney information. Now this is for a complaint. We just electronically filed, so we'll see that attorney. We'll get their bar ID, and we'll also get their email addresses. So it makes it very easy if you need to find somebody, you'll see it right there. If there were multiple parties, you'll see those twisties again Beth Ann was talking about a few minutes ago, little triangles. Click on those will expand individual parties. You can see their information. Now, Beth Ann spent a while talking about all the alternate names we can put in, whether it's a full spell for somebody's name, or other alternate names, doing business as. Any of those would be available. There's a little AKA you'll see next to the name. Here I'm seeing an individual name, but if I just hover over that, it would actually open up a little window and list out all of those party names that have been added in for that party, or alternate names. Makes it very easy to see anytime you want. Over on defendant, same information. Get the name up at the top. Any alternate names would be shown there. Get their description. This is a state agency here. I'd get that address, phone number, whatever has been entered in, as well as the attorney's name, bar ID, and email addresses. So case information, party information, individual parties on that case, and lastly, the case actions. So as we move forward into eCourts, every action taken, every filing, every order, court notices are getting put into that case action section. This kind of builds out over time. So in the example here, you're seeing we started with a complaint. We get a filed date, a couple of icons there on that first row I'll return to in a minute. And that docket text that says a complaint was filed by this person on behalf of, that gives us just a very quick synopsis of what happened. An order was signed by a judge. A motion was filed on behalf of. All that's put in there. That's the same stuff you're going to see under email notifications, and it's automatically generated by the system. Every time you file, the court signs an order, automatically creates that docket text. You don't have to type anything in, auto-generated. Transaction ID is next to that. Every filing, every time you hit submit, gets a unique transaction ID. So we can always trace your filing back into the system. Again, if you have a technical problem, give us a call. You have that number. The vicinages can also look up individual filings by transaction ID. And lastly, entry date. We talked about the ability to backload older documents, or something comes in by pro se. Maybe it was stamped filed today, but we didn't backload it for a while. So you can see a difference there between the entry date when it made it into the system and when it was originally filed. It's a lot of information we just covered. A lot of case information, party information, then the individual actions on the case. We give you the option in the upper right-hand corner to create a summary report. Very simple. You click on that, and it'll actually create a quick PDF and list out all that information. You can save that off somewhere. It's a great reference. You could print it if you wanted to. Just makes it very easy to refer back to what's going on with that case. So back to those icons I skipped over. Yes?
Quick question, when you file your, say, a complaint and you get an email notification, if someone files an answer, do you get an email saying an answer was filed?
So if you file the complaint, right, that goes in, automatically creates a case jacket, all that attorney information's there. Subsequently, someone files an answer electronically. You're on the case, it knows who you are, it's going to automatically send you a notification. Yes.
You no longer have to serve your adversary with paper copies?
If you're filing an answer and your adversary has electronically filed it, all hooked up to the case, then you would be good. And Beth Ann's actually going to show some screens in a bit where you would see where it would tell you if you still had to serve. Okay. So our two icons here are pretty self-explanatory. First is a paper clip, and we'll start with that. Those are for the attachments. These are the documents that were attached in that filing. You'll get a little pop-up, and as Beth Ann talked about, it can be easier If you break out documents, break out the individual exhibits, they're all listed out. You can click on one, or you can select all of them in one shot and see it in one PDF. When you open up a document, it shows up, and up at the top, this is the official blue stamp, blue strip, if you will. This replaces the old-fashioned stamps on all the documents. So if you want to know, is this document official? Did the court really receive it? That stamp up at the top is what tells you it's in our system. It's official. Gives you your docket number. You'll immediately get that back on your documents. It shows you the date and time down to the second when the system received it. Page 1 of 4, 2 of 4, so you can't lose any pages. And lastly, the transaction ID, we can always trace back to that individual filing. So all you would do is click on a document, it would open up the PDF, and you would see it. The second icon is an envelope. This is for notifications. So we actually store a copy of the email notifications in the system. So you always know what went out. We actually send 2 notifications. One is on e-filing, that's your confirmation email. That's where you would get something back immediately that says, you filed this, here's the documents you attached, here's the filing fees, etc. All that's there. And the other is notification to all the parties on the case. So we're looking at the notification that's for all the parties on the case. For any eCourts users now, how often do you find it takes to get that notification? Seconds? Seconds. I saw a snap of a finger. That's good. Okay. So it should be that quick that you're getting that right back. That's good. If it takes longer than that, something's wrong with the mail server. Okay. So looking through that, you'll see up at the top, somebody filed something, the plaintiff, the defendant, the case caption, the case number, all that information is coming out on every single notification. The docket text is there as well. And then, key parts, Beth Ann mentioned, I believe before, if someone was notified electronically, you'll see that listed out and where they were notified. If someone was not notified electronically, it will list that as well, which means they would need to have been served on paper. So again, that notification's out there on every e-filing, orders, etc. The actual email, a little bit better than the copy we have in the case jacket. This gives you links, so you would be able to click on one of those links to the case jacket and go immediately in and see those documents, or click on the individual document link and it'll open that up immediately. All right. Any questions on the case jacket?
I filed on 2 occasions in special civil part. I filed an answer. Notices went to my client, not to me. I'm really at a loss as to how that can happen when I file and it's my filing ID. So somewhere within the civil division, somebody's making a decision. And I just wonder how that happens, if maybe there's a way to remember that. I mean, it doesn't happen often, it's happened twice a year. So it has happened.
So this is someone who would be not an attorney getting notification?
My client.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can talk about that offline if that's all right, but that's a good question, yeah. All right, yeah, we can try that. Okay. Okay. So deficiencies, this is something that can happen if you upload a menu, your resume, something like that. Of course, the system's not going to screen, we just take it as a document. But if it comes into the court, someone's reviewing it, they can actually, on the court side, send a deficiency out. That's just a quick note to parties on the case. Also an entry in the case, right? There's a deficiency. They get to describe that deficiency, so you know what you need to cure that, and then they can submit subsequent filings as needed. Yes?
You have the ability to screen, before you, when you review, you can see the name of what you think you've attached. Is there the ability to click on it and then see if it's in fact what you intended to attach, so you don't have to have a deficiency?
Sure, great question. If I'm uploading an attachment, right after I click on upload, I'm attaching it, and I do a browse. It actually turns it into a link. And I went back to slide 32, and you actually see it says complaint with a little blue underline. You can click on it, it'll pop open the PDF, look at it, verify, and if you don't like it, there's a trash can to the left, and you can upload it again. Okay, so again, deficiencies, if there's a problem, clerk's notices, could be a variety of reasons. You just want to get some information out to all the parties on a case. You might see those coming out as well through the notifications. All right.
Is there a way to fix that deficiency from here, or do you have to refile something?
You would need to follow the instructions on the deficiency through refiling. The case jacket is simply an inquiry view. We don't like to do any data entry through case jacket, just looking at the system at this point. All right. I'm going to turn it back over to Beth Ann for responsive pleadings.
All right, I'm going to walk you through the filing of an answer. Should look very familiar to you very quickly. So you start after logging in with this home screen. And here, though, you're going to select enter search an existing case, which is at the top of the screen. So you're going to put in the venue and the docket number. Notice after the docket number, there's a little question that you can answer yes or no to, asking if you want to submit the filing to other cases. This would probably be most useful if you were filing something to consolidated cases, for example, the same motion to one or more cases that were consolidated. If you click yes here, which we're not going to show you here, but if you clicked yes, it would give you a drop down and you would put in those other docket numbers. But here we're filing an answer on a single case, and so we leave it to the default of no, and then we're going to click on search. Here you're going to see a lot of the information that's already existing for the case. And again, this allows you to confirm that you're in the right case, this is the right caption, this is where you want to file your answer. And at the bottom, select filing type. So there are two drop-down boxes. The first is the filing type. So filing type is just broad categories, and this is because there are so many types of documents you can file. We don't want you to have to scroll down through drop boxes, so we give you a filing type. Filing types are such things as responsive pleading, which we've selected here, motion related, which you're going to see in a moment, post-judgment documents, and a few other broad categories. There's only a few categories. But once you select that filing type, then the drop-down to the right will give you all of the available types of documents that pertain to that generic category. So here we're going to just select answer, but there may have been, for example, an answer with a counterclaim or an answer with a third-party complaint or both, or all of the various permutations of answers that you can choose from here. And once you've done that, you're going to click on continue. So again, for an answer, as with a complaint, eCourts creates the CIS for you, and so you're going to answer a lot of those questions that are relevant to the CIS. A little bit different here because you are going to note whether you have a counterclaim, cross-claim, third-party claim. A few other questions are different. The format's a little bit different, but it's all the same that you need for the CIS form. And so complete that section. And then at the bottom, you're going to select who the filing party or parties are and who the parties are that you're filing against. In this case, we only have one plaintiff and one defendant, but the defendant is going to select the checkbox for movant. That's what eCourts calls the filing party. And then for the plaintiff, adversary in this case. Notice that the names of the parties are in blue with an underline. You can click on those and get information about those parties. And to the right of that, the question special accommodations. And here, if you click on this, you can see any interpreter requests or any other accommodations that have been requested for the party by previous filers, or you can request accommodations here if you need to for your party. Yes?
Let's say that I needed an interpreter of some language and I omitted that in my initial filing. Can I go back in and see the special accommodations I omitted?
You can go back, if you omitted accommodations, you can go back in later, but can you only do it through a filing? I think you have to do it through a filing that you're submitting, though. Okay. So once you've answered all of the questions and you've selected the parties, requested accommodations or interpreter as needed, you can go ahead and click continue. And this is going to bring you a pop-up, which is new. You didn't see this for a complaint. But for any document other than a complaint, you're going to get a pop-up box, and this is your first notification as to who eCourts is going to serve electronically, or rather, who it's not. So this box is going to show you who you're going to have to serve on paper. Now, just suspend what I showed you with the complaint, because we already know the complaint was electronically filed, but we're going to, for the purpose of demonstrating this, assume that that complaint had been filed on paper, and the plaintiff then, in this case, would have to be served on paper because they had not entered an appearance in eCourts. So just for the purpose of illustration, we're showing you that, and you can click continue. In the next screen, you're going to go ahead and upload the documents, document or documents. The answer, obviously, is a required document. If you have other documents that you're going to submit with the answer, you can click on the blue plus sign and go ahead and add them as well. And then at the bottom of the screen where the fee information is, you're going to go ahead and select that. In this example, and I told you before, we were going to show you what happens if the filer is exempt from fees. And so we have that checkbox selected, and you can see to the right there's a drop-down box. Below that, all of the boxes are grayed out for the payment type, the collateral account number, and so forth. And to the left at the bottom, the filing fee is 0 because this filer was exempt from the filing fee. So from here, you're going to head and continue. You can view the CIS if you like, just as you did with the complaint. Again, it's a PDF. You can look at it, you can print it, you can save it, or you can just skip by it. It doesn't matter. And once you have viewed that, if you wanted to, when you close it, you're going to click continue. And again, as with the complaint, you're going to get this final warning box. The final warning that once you hit submit, this document is going to go to a case jacket. It's going to be a public record. It can only be removed by a court order, and also the filing fee, if any, is non-refundable. So if you're okay with this, you can go ahead and click yes. And you're going to get a confirmation message, as you did with the complaint. This document has been successfully submitted. A notification was sent to you by email. And in fact, and those of you who are already working in eCourts and special civil or foreclosure, you know that this usually happens very quickly. It does, again, show you a transaction ID at the bottom. It shows what documents were uploaded, the date that it was entered in eCourts, and the filing fee, if any. At this point, you could view the case jacket if you wanted to. The answer is in there. You could click at the bottom for new case, and you can start a new document. Any questions about responsive pleadings? Okay, they're pretty straightforward. The last document type we want to show you is a motion filing, and this begins on slide 64. Again, assuming that you're at the home page, you're going to search on an existing case. You're going to put in the venue and the docket number. If this is going to go to more than one docket number, you're going to click yes, and then go ahead and search. As with the answer, you're going to see some basic case details, and then at the bottom of the screen, you're going to select a filing type or category, here, motion related, and then the drop-down box to the right of that is going to show you all of the possible motion types that you can select. The category is motion related for a reason, because not only would you file a motion from here, you would file an opposition, a reply brief, etc., and all of those are available options in the second drop-down box. So you're going to select the type of motion that you're filing and click on Continue. On the next screen, you're going to select who the moving party or parties are, and the adversary or adversaries. And again, the same availability of being able to see information about the parties or about accommodations or requests for a translator.
If we're filing, we are the movement.
If you're filing, you're the movant. So eCourts always calls the filer the movant and the party you're filing against as the adversary. So once you've selected the movant and adversary, you're going to click on Continue. Here you're going to upload the documents. We try to help you out here and pre-populate some documents that you may want to upload. So here for the motion, the notice of motion is required, the certification in support of the motion is required. They're both PDF documents, and the proposed form of order is required as a Word document. Other types of documents may be attached. Some of them you know that you need to have, but we're not listing it as required because we know that some firms have templates and they may combine certain sections of a motion, so we give you some flexibility. So just because it's not marked as required, you know what you need to submit. And the court staff will review it, and if there's a problem, they'll give you a deficiency or a clerk's note and let you know. You can also add other documents by clicking on the blue plus sign. So for example, you would add exhibits here. At that point, if you're going to add a document that we don't have something pre-populated for, you have to type in the document name. But other than that, just upload it as usual. There are a couple of questions that are specific to motions. So you have to state whether or not you want oral argument, yes, no, or if opposed. Whether or not, sorry, my vision is awful. I know, I can't read anything, and I've done this a million times. Whether or not it's a cross motion, and the proof of service date. So for an e-filed document, particularly if all of your adversaries being served are going to be served electronically, that would be today's date. But it does give you the opportunity, if you're going to be serving anybody on another date, you can go ahead and put, I guess, the date of the last party that you're expecting to be served. And also you have the opportunity to put the date that you're asking for a return date. This would be the same date that you have on your notice of motion. The reason that we ask you to put this here is because the court staff on the other side can easily see what date you're asking for without having to open the document. If that date is available, if there's no reason why you can't have it, as in the paper world, they're going to go ahead and give you that date. If not, you will get a notification if the date is not the same return date that you requested. You will go ahead and enter the fee information. If your client's exempt from the filing fee, you'll click on that and select a reason. Otherwise, eCourts has calculated what the fee is based on the document that you said you were filing. You're going to select your collateral account and continue.
If you say no, will it allow you to make changes? Like,
If you say no, it will allow you to go back and make changes, yes. So again, you're going to get the pop-up box. This document is going to become a public record as soon as you submit it. So it can only be removed by a court order, and the filing fee is non-refundable. So when you're comfortable with that, you're going to click yes. You get the confirmation screen. This document has been successfully submitted, and email notification has been sent to you. And again, at the bottom of the screen, it's going to give you your transaction ID, which is also going to be in the email and in the notifications. The documents that were uploaded, the date that it was entered into eCourts, and the filing fee. And at this point, you can view the case jacket, or you can click New Case to start another filing. Yes.
We did a complaint, we did an answer, and we did a motion. What if you needed to file, say, a letter to the judge or something? Does that get filed in here, or does that go back in?
So all documents that you would normally file with the court can be filed in eCourts. We're only showing you the big three.
But there would be some kind of a place in
Yes,
there.
yes, so there's a category for miscellaneous documents, and something like a correspondence to the court would be there. All right, so I just want to say in conclusion that we are continually looking at enhancements to eCourts. We're adding functionality. As Mark said, it's not a finished product. We put out something that works, and we want to just keep making it work better. There are a lot of people involved in determining policy, procedures, enhancements. We list for you a few of the groups of people in the judiciary that are involved in this, and as you can see, there are quite a lot of groups. But so if you have a suggestion, and your feedback is very important to us as well, and we've taken a lot of feedback from the bar to make improvements and enhancements. So if you have a suggestion, please reach out to Mary, your Civil Division Manager. Oh, there's her card. And she'll get that to us, and we'll work on it. All right. Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming.